welcome to ultra efficient cloud native storage, editing and publishing, hosted by Object Matrix and Blackbird. Just before we get into the introductions, just a very few quick bits of admin at the start. Just remind you, you are being recorded, although you can't be seen, so please don't worry about that. Questions, please place them in the Q&A box. Don't be alarmed if we don't answer them straight away. We like to keep the flow of the presentation moving. All the questions will be addressed at the end. And please don't go anywhere before the survey. The survey that will be put up by our marketing teams at the end. Do please spend just a couple of minutes filling that in. It's really super useful always around. So without further ado, let's move through to the introductions. And I'm delighted to say that today I'm joined by Mark Haberfield. And I won't introduce Mark. Mark, you can feel free to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, my name is Mark Haberfield. I'm the technical sales engineer here at Object Matrix. I've been with the company just coming up on 7 years now. And I also deal with all of our third-party integrations, which is why working with Blackbird, the great guys at Blackbird, is such a fit for Object Matrix.
It's lovely to have you here, Mark, and thanks for all your work putting together both this demo and also the integration that we've put together over the last few months. It's great to have it. My name is George Maddox. I'm the head of global pre-sales at Blackbird. My background was making large-scale view-on-demand solutions, but also working with live sports and live editing for corporate work. I mixed the two, and I found myself here at Blackbird doing large-scale installations, but dealing with lots of live sports and lots of other fast turnaround content. So the way we're going to structure this is that actually Mark is going to go first. He's going to explain to you a bit about how Object Matrix works, what it can do for you, all the great things it can do for your video content. And then what we'll show you is how Blackbird will plug into the top of that and how giving you really fast and effective responsive editing off the back of it. But I think it's fair to say, Mark, that we're going to start with a video, aren't we?
We are, yeah. It just gives you a quick overview of who we are in 2 succinct minutes.
Superb. Well, we'll roll straight through to that. Someone shout at me if you can't hear, but I'm sure you'll be able to. So, moving through to video.
In 2003, Object Matrix created MatrixStore Object Storage. In 2009, we focused on the media industry and only the media industry. And that very year, we started to win customers in broadcast, news, sports, video on demand, post-production, VFX and corporate video, as our solutions solve major problems the media industry was facing. In 2010, we continued to listen to our customers and help them solve their challenges by building more tight integrations with the tools that they used. Today, there are 3 ways to deploy MatrixStore Object Storage. Firstly, MatrixStore on-prem, deployed in-house in your data centers. Very powerful, very secure, and your content is accessible from anywhere. Secondly, MatrixStore Cloud, media-focused cloud storage with predictable costs and no egress fees. It's perfect for backup, business continuity, or archive workflows. Finally, MatrixStore Hybrid, a combination of MatrixStore on-prem, MatrixStore Cloud, or public cloud storage, with the benefits of creating a unified multi-cloud storage platform. With hundreds of global installations, we help our customer community to be more operationally efficient, to collaborate globally, and empower creativity. We've been dedicated to the media industry for over a decade, and we will continue to help you meet your challenges as we evolve to a more relevant and appropriate Cloud 2.0. In 2021, we invite you to join the MatrixStore on-prem, hybrid, and multi-cloud storage revolution. Object Matrix, saving you time and money.
Perfect. Thank you for that. It's always a lot better than listening to me trying to explain all that on a few slides. As we mentioned there are 3 core ways to deploy the MatrixStore. The on-prem is fully qualified hardware in your data center with a one-stop ownership, one-stop point of contact for support. And that's our team, our excellent support team at Object Matrix. It's a fast, secure object storage. It's got a host of integrations as well as a host of interfaces as well. And all those interfaces are cross-compatible. You know, if you pop it in with Samba, you can read it out with our Vision interface. If you put it in with our MatrixStore file system, you can see it back out with all the other types of interfaces, as well as the power of MatrixStore allowing us to have all of that extra metadata. Being media focused, all of our MatrixStore deployments actually give us that extra metadata that we extract in a process called process in place, where we can find, you know, additional media info, XMP info, anything from an IMF to an AS11 and an AS10. The MatrixStore Cloud is exactly the same as a MatrixStore on-prem, except we take care of everything for you. You get yourself a MatrixStore space, and the beauty of that is not only have you got all of these integrations, the secure storage, the safe internet-ready MatrixStore Cloud, you've got no egress fees, so very, very predictable costs. And again, all of the support from our industry media experts allows you to make sure that your data is not only safe, but we're talking the same language as you when it comes to any support that you may require. Then lastly, the hybrid, the ability to choose, mix and match between MatrixStore on-prem, MatrixStore Cloud, and even public cloud, other cloud offerings that we will push and pull to so that you can use the power of whatever type of cloud or storage you want. We're even having a MatrixStore hybrid appliance, a small cache on site that can push to MatrixStore Cloud and then onwards to the other type of clouds as well. So on the next slide, we just see our obligatory customer slide. You know, actually, we've got to show it to everybody to see that we not only have our post and our video on demand customers, customers in news, even the frame-based workflows from the ad agencies, but you'll also see on there some universities and some banks as well. The banks come from our history of working in a very secure environment. And again, they're media workflows where they are handling lots of media assets again, but of course they like the MatrixStore for its full security suite and the ability to generate extra income from their assets.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed, Mark. So that's the object matrix side of things, and that's obviously where your content will be. And being in there gives you all sorts of efficiencies, as Mark has outlined. It's a great place to put your contact. I can tell you it's very efficient because actually one of these slides is my ex-employer. And I didn't even know we were using Object Matrix, but when Mark made it clear, it became very clear that why we were, because it's so very good for backing up in the workflow we were using. So it's truly ubiquitous and highly recommended by us. So it falls to us to explain how Blackbird interacts with Object Matrix, and the quick and easy way to start is explaining what Blackbird is. So just because we are going to demo the technology later and we want you to be fully au fait with what's going on, I'll start with just a very simple, straightforward explanation of what Blackbird is. Blackbird is a video editor that will run in a single web browser tab on minimal internet on basic laptops. However, it is not just a clipping tool. It is not just sort of a basic half editor. It is a professional grade non-linear editor running 12 video tracks and 36 audio tracks. Those video and audio tracks can be adjusted the same way that you would use software on your desktop, with the same level of power, the same level of features, the same high-level craft edit capabilities that you would expect in a much larger, much heavier piece of software. We have transposed all of those into a very simple web browser tab on a small basic laptop running on a basic internet connection. And that everything you see today is running on a relatively antique laptop here at my house. There's no trickery at all involved. So that's the basic concept. What does that mean for your business? Well, the first thing we are is fast. Very, very, very fast. Now, when we get onto the architecture, you'll see how we acquire your media. We'll see how we take your media in from Object Matrix, or indeed from wherever else you might have it, or indeed from live. We grab that media very, very fast. We make it available for editing in that web browser tab very, very fast. And then people anywhere around the world can turn it around very, very fast. Now, I've said fast a lot of times there, and that means it needs a little bit of quantification. Well, what we mean when we say fast is something like the National Rugby League of Australia. They had a problem they came to us with, and their problem was that as they were broadcasting their rugby football matches over in Australia, they had people in bars They were fans, but they were pointing camera phones up at big screens and big projectors. And simply put, they were beating their social media teams of the national rugby team to the punch on social media. So the social media users were getting the content to social media faster than the approved social media teams for the NRL. So they came to us and they said, we need you to be able to take something from live and get it onto social media in under a minute. And Blackbird technology does that and still does that to this day. It is exceedingly fast, as well as being accessible from anywhere you like around the globe. The second thing it means for your business is that we are flexible. And that's really come to the fore in the last 12 months, but I think it's fair to say at this point, we've all had enough of hearing about COVID. So let's look to the future. Let's look to the COVID-free future, but understand that the world has changed, that sometimes offices will be the place to be, but sometimes you want people working from home. And that's not just about illness. That's about things like maternity. That's about things like paternity. That's about differently abled people being able to access and do their jobs from wherever is convenient and useful to them, so the most creative minds can be enabled. And that's what Blackbird enables. We are a remote editing solution. You can work from home, you can work from a coffee shop, you can work anywhere you have that laptop and that 4G connection. And we believe that's really important and only going to become more important to the world as we move forward. Resilient, that's the other thing we are. And what we need to mention here very clearly is our SOC 2 and other security certifications. We have more information on those on request. However, the resiliency point that I always like to make is that using Blackbird for editing video is the sort of change that you found when everyone stopped using Microsoft Word documents and started using Google Documents. And you realized that when you were using your Google document, you could open your computer anywhere and there was your document. In fact, you could open any computer and there was your document. Blackbird offers you the same thing, but for your video edit. What I always say to my members of staff is, I want everything you do in the cloud. I should be able to take your desktop laptop, chuck it in the Thames and come back and find that you have in fact continued working just on a different laptop. And that is what Blackbird enables, but in a video editing context. No more heavy duty editing bays and long times to provision things when you're working in the Blackbird system. And finally, and this is something that we are all incredibly excited about, carbon efficient. So I would urge you all to go to blackbird.video/sustainability. And look at the recent survey we released on our carbon efficiency. I'm not going to try and do it justice here. It really merits a read. So please do go download that and peruse that. But as the environment becomes more and more and more important and prevalent, it's important to understand that compared to taking an edit system that is designed to run on premise and placing that ad hoc into the public cloud, Blackbird is 91% more efficient. Because we were born in the cloud and we live in the cloud, and we are not just taking a heavy duty piece of software and making it run on X amount of virtual machines up in the public cloud. So our turn for our, this is who we work with slide. We're trusted by these people. We've sort of divided them out into various different sectors here. We've got our customers. And what you're going to notice about our customers is a real mix. There's a mix between the kind of customers that have large pools of content. A&E New York, huge pool of content, A&E New York, and all effectively managed and made meaningful and enriched by Blackbird. Compare and contrast with Riot Games, who still have a lot of content, obviously, but are really using us in a fast turnaround sports cycle. That's also the same for BT, and that's the same for Sky News as well. The objective for those customers is to get things in, get things out, get things in, get things out. Whereas in the other scenarios, we're sitting across large pools of content. And then on the other side, we have our partners, and our partners are obviously, our big partner of the day is Object Matrix, but we have other partners as well, be it Tata or EditShare, EVS. And, you know, a few notes about what we're doing with these partners. We're partnering with EVS for what must be euphemistically described as a major sporting event in the summer. I think the more eagle-brained among you will work out what that one is. But let's not let that overshadow things. You know, the work we do with Delta Tray has allowed European Golf to edit from anywhere and anywhere, to Chase the Sun edit. Town News have 50 news stations, all of which are editing from a huge pool of shared content by Blackbird. With 3 major customers with Tata, and we just recently completed a lot of work with LiveView in Europe covering elections there. And of course, down the bottom, we're partnered with the 3 majors, but obviously we're also very, very proud of the work we've done with Object Matrix, which again, And this speaks to the general theme of what we've been doing with our partners for the last 2 years. What we're talking about here is we're talking about scale. We're talking about the ability for us to work not as an island, but collaboratively with other parties to take in more of the market and fit in more with whatever happens to be underneath the hood of your solution. So having said all that, I'll sort of flash slightly through these 2 slides because I think we've covered most of it, but it's always worth just to emphasize a couple of major customers. We would choose to emphasize A&E networks. A&E networks have a huge pool of content. And what is being done with A&E and Blackbird is that content is being made meaningful. And what I mean by that is that if A&E or a producer at A&E wants to know if a piece of material will cut with another piece of material, it's cycled into Blackbird, it is edited, it is then placed back. It may be that it does cut with the material, it may be it doesn't cut with the material, but if that material does cut, then it saves them reordering material. It also means that if they want to quickly and effectively add more and more users, they can add 5 users one day, give them basic laptops, and the next day they can take them straight away because again, the system runs basic internet, basic laptops. So the days of having to spin up a massive Avid suite, contact your IT team, ask for more provision of internet, find where the Ethernet cable cabinet is, those days are gone. You want more editors, pop open the laptop, turn on, log into Blackbird and meaningfully work with your material. And why does that save them time? Why does that save them money? Well, it means that they can assess material, not just by looking at it in some sort of arbitrary format, but by looking at it by being versatilely attached to it wherever they need to be. The next customer is slightly different. It's Riot Games. The point with Riot is speed of turnaround. But the reason why we've chosen to highlight that in conjunction with Object Matrix is this: because we are so fast, because we can read very quickly from storage, we are in fact sat on top of the Riot storage, picking up their replays, which are happening seconds after live. But because we're picking up the replay serve from their mixing software, the speed at which we can edit means we can push back into play out contribution. Now that's amazingly important for esports because, and I will thoroughly confess, I do not fully understand the terminology, but I understand it's massively important to know every single frame, or whether a move is plus frames, or whether someone has been nerfed, or whatever the terminology is. And that precision of replay, that ability to isolate exactly the frame, exactly the moment you're looking for, that is the thing that sets Blackbird apart and why they've chosen us to be part of what I genuinely believe to be a groundbreaking solution for cloud mixing. So at this point, it's time to sort of do a general demo of how everything fits together, isn't it, Mark? So I think I'll hand back to you. Actually, before I hand back to you, Mark, I think I'll walk everyone through the Blackbird codec and then I'll hand to you, won't I? That's the way we agreed to do it.
Yeah, that's it.
Perfect. Okay. So we've said a lot and we've made a lot of big claims about what we do here at Blackbird. And you'll be wanting to understand how everything fits together and how it all works. Well, the way it works is anchored, hinged, and completely built around our unique technology. And that unique technology is the Blackbird codec. This is patented. This has been with us for 15 years. It was the original thing that drove the company forward, the secret sauce, if you will. What the Blackbird codec does is take streaming video and makes it navigable as though it were sat there on your desktop in a non-linear editor. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can test it for yourself. If you go to blackbird.video/solution, you'll find this asset here and you can play it back. Now, there's nothing particularly interesting about a piece of video playing back in a web page. You know, we're not trying to impress you with that. What's more interesting is what happens when I press back on my keyboard. I move back exactly a frame. Not maybe a frame, not half a frame on an M3U8 playback that then links back, exactly one single frame. And if I want to be more tactile, if I want to go back at quadruple speed, I go back at quadruple speed. I'm using the JKL controls that I would use in a standard nonlinear editor. This is the Blackbird codec, the tactile navigable codec. There's no buffering, there's no latency, there's no delay. It just happens. And so you feel as though you're right there in front of this piece of video in front of a nonlinear editor. So how do we make all of this fit together? Well, it starts, doesn't it, Mark, with Object Matrix, where your storage is kept.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we excel with our ability to be able to manage large pools of data, massive amounts of data coming into your MatrixStore, either ingest or your archive, having all that important metadata available to search, find, and then subclip and deliver to an area of the Blackbird server. That Blackbird server is normally an edge server right next to either your on-prem MatrixStore or the MatrixStore cloud. And makes the next part of the workflow fit together nicely.
Perfect. So at that point, you're in your object matrix instance, as Mark has said. You pick out the piece of material you want to edit from your obviously your comprehensive store of everything. And then what you're going to do is you're going to point it to the folder that is linked to a virtual machine that we're also running in Object Matrix's instance. And what that virtual machine is going to do is it's going to look at where that material is, and it will, a piece of software, the Blackbird Edge software running in the Object Matrix instance, is going to take that, it's going to turn it into our codec, and it's going to send it to our cloud. Now in our cloud, you can collaboratively edit, as we mentioned before. Anyone can log on from anywhere, find their pool of content, frame accurately and completely meaningfully edit, create new timelines, do whatever they need to do. We'll show you all of that in a minute. We're going to slightly brush past it now, because the obvious question that everyone asks is, it's all very well you being able to edit in your codec. We don't want your codec. We want the bitrate and the resolution that we put in to come back out the other side. So what's going to happen is, having completed your edit in Blackbird, you will activate a publish. And having activated a publish, the edit decisions that you have made will be sent back to the edge. They will communicate with the storage, the object matrix storage, and they will render against the source. So the resolution and the bit rate that you get out is that you put in is the resolution and the bit rate that you get out. And now that will go straight back into your object matrix storage, which will know what it is and say, here is the new clip based on the 3 clips you put in. I think that's all fair to say, isn't it, Mark?
It is exactly that. And then from there, you can allow the sharing of that either for pre-approval or just a link out to the outside world. And again, you've got that full content delivery plan from there, knowing that it's safe within the MatrixStore as well.
Perfect. So we've talked a lot about it, but I think the thing to do really is show it. So product demonstration. I am going to break my own rule and answer a single question because it's very quick and easy. Correct. The rendering of the EDL is done within the Blackbird Cloud, Blackbird Edge. Okay, lovely. Product demonstration. Mark, I believe I'm going to hand over to you first.
Great. I take it you can see my screen?
Certainly can. Thank you.
Great stuff. So, I mean, the MatrixStore is a clustered storage. I'm going to switch to that screen. The MatrixStore is a clustered storage. You need a way to administer that, and this is our administration tool. Of course, you can administer it from anywhere, and that includes looking at audits, everything within the MatrixStore being fully audited. We've got the ability to look at the nodes, and within the MatrixStore cluster itself, we can see that we have spaces, logical areas within the MatrixStore, which divides up the users and the vaults. We call them vaults. They could be called buckets or workspaces or whatever you like, but this is where we decide what we're going to do with our actual policies on the individual bucket. As you can see, I've got the ability to switch on that process in place, the ability to extract that important metadata from the MatrixStore. Within the MatrixStore policies, I can allow or disallow any of the functions. And again, I can do this at a user level, or I can do it at a policy level within the MatrixStore. I can choose a compliance, the ability to say this is going to be completely compliant, as in we'll keep the data for a set amount of time. Even if I didn't have the compliance turned on, I could have a trash can. There is a trash can built into the MatrixStore, a lot like the trash can you have on your desktop, except we do it at a storage level. Again, that was asked for by our customers. So they had the ability to make sure that if there was a few delete heavy people within the company, we would make sure they had a quick and easy way to get back to their data. And then lastly, the ability to replicate as well, knowing that if an asset hits this bucket, it is going to be pushed to another bucket as well. It's going to be logically in two places to make sure that we're compliant with all of those InfoSec and important post-delivery products for looking after assets within your storage. As you'd expect, integration with Active Directory, an LDAP, Azure Directory as well, and the ability to give the granularity of the users to various things within the system. Now, MatrixStore also comes with a full set of suite of analytics. So that gives us the ability to see what's happening within our storage at a vault level, at a cluster level, and at an individual product level as well, seeing who is using the data within the MatrixStore. As I said before, we've got the standard file system interfaces, Samba, NFS, and our MatrixStore file system. That's very powerful in that it gives you an app that fits onto Windows, Mac, and Linux and gives you a direct mount or drive letter to the storage. But more importantly, all of that data is cross-compatible. So if I put it in with one, I will see it with the other. So what I'm showing you here is our Vision application, and Vision is our browser into the MatrixStore. Now, this is not a database. This is reading the MatrixStore live, bringing up the data within your vaults. My vaults are on the left-hand side, and within those vaults, I can see images, thumbnails. I can navigate in. I've got a right-hand panel with all that important metadata extracted, media info, XMP, etc. And I've got the ability to search across all vaults, fuzzy search, extracted metadata, saving all of those important searches, as well as add in metadata, my own metadata, the metadata that we want to make sure is on each one of these assets and available to us, as well as the ability to get attachments and get a link. That could be a local link, private link, or a public expiring link. It's the ability to share out directly from your storage, saving you all those FTP or transfer products that people have out there. With videos, of course, you can see we've got the ability to play these videos. Now, again, we've got some JKL support in here and the ability to switch between time formats. But what I've also got is the ability to do some clipping as well. Just a simple clip, just almost frame accurate, but we're working on a proxy and we're working without databases. But I can always put this where I like it. So I can deliver this straight to my Blackbird ingest folder. And of course, if I push it there, I've got Blackbird in the background. We'll pick that up as soon as it lands there. So what we're doing is a simple rewrap. We're just going to take the high res, clip it down, put it on a rewrap and drop it into that folder. So that tells me about my Blackbird vault. Now I've got one Blackbird vault, but I could be watching any and all of these vaults as I choose. This is completely up to me, but in my case, I decided to just watch the two folders, Blackbird ingest and Blackbird publish. So if I just quickly copy and move this asset straight into Blackbird ingest, I believe within seconds, that'll disappear over there and we'll be able to see it on George's screen in a few seconds time.
Absolutely perfect. So I'm going to stop your screen sharing, Mark, and I'll move back across to mine, if that's all right.
Yeah, no worries.
Superb. Let's make sure we set the right thing. So as Mark says, we'll be receiving his file shortly. Before we start to do anything particularly clever, though, with the sort of more in-depth editing we might see there, I just want to walk you from start to finish through the way Blackbird fits together. So at a fundamental level, Blackbird is a malleable tool. It's pick-upable and it's usable in a variety of formats. What I have here is something that's slightly different to what you would normally see, but we think quite useful. This is a large piece of supporting content. And that supporting content is essentially could be coming in live. It's pre-recorded, this one, but it could be coming in live. Just going to draw your attention to this little bar underneath here. Now that bar underneath is, notice it's red, but it very quickly goes amber as I run my mouse across the top of it. Now, what's happening here is that we don't use anything other than the frames we need. The frames that we need are pulled through to this instance of JavaScript running on this machine as required. So you'll notice when I click into the bar, like so, you'll notice how very quickly everything goes green. That means that frame has cached through to this browser instance. Now that's part of the speed. That's all about the speed in which we use, all about the speed at which we navigate through this content, but it also means something else. because we are accurate down to the absolute latest frame, we actually create this thing called the video waveform. Now, the video waveform means that I can see at a distance where my shots change. So my shot changes from here to here to here. So what does this mean for me in sort of in practical terms, shall we say? Well, in practical terms, what it means is that if I'm dealing with a large stream or a large file, and I want to very quickly get through to the meat and the drink of that large stream or that large file, I simply, I can see from a distance where my shot changes and what is important. If I'm, let's say, a social media editor, that social media editor can very quickly see this is where something exciting happens. So right now I can see that that's a good place to go from a distance. Now, let's say that I'm not necessarily an editor at all. I'm a content matter specialist. I'm someone who knows a lot about golf and knows that this is very interesting for those people who are avid followers of golf. So at this point, what we're going to do is that we're going to grab that. I've marked my in and I've marked my out. And you'll notice that I've marked that in and I've marked that out with a very straightforward in point and out point. And I'm just going to pick up from here and I'm going to drag straight across there. Now, this is actually happens to be a dedicated publish straight through to Facebook, but just as easily be a publish back into Mark's Object Matrix instance or pick up from there. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to hit publish. And so just to remind you what is in fact happening in the background, just to go back to this previous slide, the edit decisions I just made are headed back to the edge, rendering back from source. And as they render back from source, they will compress, rendering against the source with no loss of quality, and then they will push through to the endpoint, unless I'm very much mistaken or I've done something stupid, both of which are entirely possible on an afternoon Thursday with me. We should find that that video that I just clipped pops up here in my Facebook page. And indeed, there it is. That's the 11-minute clip rendered against source and pushed through to where I need it to be. So that's what we talk about when we talk about speed. So let's open this up a little bit. Let's say that we are at this point, we're moving a step forward, and that step forward is that we are, in fact, we are more of an editor at this point than we were before. Let's pick out a little different bit of material. Was this the one you sent through, Mark, the Sabres Devils ProRes? I suspect it was. There it is. So here it is, and that's the file that Mark just sent across. And you can see that actually Mark and I have been practicing throughout the day. And various different things have come in. So that's the file that Mark sent across, manifested and put forward in Blackbird. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that, I'm going to pick that, and I'm going to make some proper edits with it. Or I'm going to start scrolling through it and picking up and do something slightly different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move into here and say, well, what's really good about this? Well, what would be nice is to not have the adverts. So again, we're not quite a full-blown editor at this juncture. Yeah, what we are at this juncture is someone who's passing down equipment to pass it off to someone else. Indeed, so I'm going to marking in, marking out. Again, I got my big blocky controls rather than my detailed edit controls because I'm just passing through the data, and I'm not going to use more than I need. At this point, having done all of that, then I'm going to mark the in, mark the out, and you notice I get this big bobble control underneath. And again, because I'm not the full-blown edit yet, I'm just getting rid of stuff. I can see that really I get back to the meat and drink of the ice hockey here. So let's go there. And again, I can use my mouse to scroll in. And again, I just use my big blocky controls to marking in and marking out. There we go. And again, I drag across. And I'm creating a big blocky line that runs across here. But Blackbird is nothing if not a malleable, adaptable tool. So as a direct consequence, what we're going to do now is we are going to jump into the full-blown edit mode. And that looks like this. What you're going to notice is everything has changed around. What's changed around is we have much more granular control. We have a much more detailed edit timeline. It looks much more like a traditional edit, as you would expect to see in a full-blown non-linear editor. I'm going to jump right through to there. I'm going to add the cross dissolve between the two. I'm going to scroll in. I'm actually going to make this, I think, if memory serves this content, a J-cut works best because the audio fits in best. And notice that I'm doing all of this really from my timeline. This is a really quick navigable instance. I'm going to make this a bit tighter because we're going to use it as a promo. So again, this is a file pushed to me by Object Matrix, appearing in my files column here. Having appeared in my files column here, I pick it out, I start to edit it, and then there's the need to return it. So at this point, I'm editing it. Please do ignore the vibrating phone. Quiet, thank you. At which point I can return. I can cut it in with other material as well if I like. I can put it wherever I want. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up and do an edit. So I've jumped there. I've actually added a transition to that now. Instantly, everything you see here is customizable and adjustable as you would see fit. So now I have my material there. Just going to add another video track. And then having added another video track, let's take a use case. Let's say that this is a piece of OTT content, and that OTT content is designed to be a trailer for the hockey. And actually, you've got someone chopping down 12 hours of live hockey. They want a bit of a trailer for all the great stuff that's happening. I've got to be honest with you, it's not the most dynamic bit of hockey I've picked, but I'm not an editor. I'm just someone who happens to know how edits work. And there we go. And so what we're going to do, forgive me, Mark, I have worked off the wrong file. I do apologize. Silly me. Tell you what, everyone forget that. And let's look at something slightly different, but almost exactly the same. So if I go back to here, this is probably a slightly better demonstration. There we go. That is the file that Mark was sending me, which stupidly I had metadata filtered out. Interestingly, of course, it's the same content, so don't expect anything different. But what you can see is the chevrons at the end would indicate it growing in. So there you go. So that's the file coming in. Same file. It's just this is the one that Mark sent. You can tell it's the one that Mark sent because the chevrons that drive it forward. No, this is an even better use case, really. Imagine that Mark is sending this and chasing this through. So let's do the same thing at the same speed. So what did we want? Well, we decided that this was a bit boring, didn't we? So let's start at the beginning of the clip. And I'm actually in full-blown professional editor mode at this point. So what do full-blown professional editors want? Well, what full-blown professional editors want is they want systems to work in the same way that the systems they're used to. We're not so arrogant over at Blackbird as to think that editors are going to completely change their ways to suit us. We know that people will want to work with what they're used to, which is why we put in this shortcut function. The shortcut functions here are essentially going to make my keyboard correspond with whatever I am expecting from previous systems. So we've got a bit of EDIUS, a bit of FCP7 for those of you who are nostalgic for the days of Final Cut Pro 7. I know I am. Media Composer Premiere Pro, New Premiere Pro, and then all these other untitled ones, which are the ones that I set up when I want to do certain things. If I want to add more things to this, it's just as simple as hitting the thing that I want to add and working out what the key is because I've already assigned it there. The other thing, of course, is the customizable layouts, which I've shown. Okay, so now no big blocky controls, no big mark in, mark out. We're a pro editor at this point. So we're going to hit I to set an in point. And I think it's a good place to fade out before we go to the wide. So I'm just going to use my keys to get to there. We're probably going to use that downward movement of the hand to mask the fact that it's probably going to be a nasty transition. Perfect. Out. And again, dragging across. And this time, let's cut directly from the salute, which gets everyone going into the wide. So again, not using the big blocking controls, using the I and using the O, and again dragging across. Perfect. And then you'll remember this from the first time I did it. Cross dissolve adds in, so the motion on the hand should cover the cross dissolve. I do apologize if there are any actual editors on. You know, I know this isn't great, but you know, it's important for you to see the tool, not for the edit to be fantastic. Then finally, let's put in using the handles. Let's use the right click to add the J cut again. Okay, that's great. And then let's jump up into here. Let's add the new graphic. So we said that this was a piece of view on demand asset that we were going to use to trail the hockey. So actually, we're in quite a good place for that. We use the handles to drag this out from here to here. Obviously, we support images and animations with alpha. So what we have here with that bar across the bottom is an image or an animation. And this is, in this case, is an image, which just easily be an animation with alpha. What this allows is for essentially low-level graphic amendment within the platform. So I've got my bar across here that says Blackbird, and a bar across the bottom, I want to add some text because otherwise it's just a Blackbird bar. So I'm going to say, catch let's spell it right, catch the hockey on CBS 1, exclamation mark. Right, I've applied those, I've hard-coded that text across the top, but it's wrong. So I'm going to right-click in, drop the opacity on the back, change that through to that, drag that across to the side, get rid of that, and drag this out through to the end. oops, excuse me, drag this through to the end. And again on the other side. Okay, that's good, but it hasn't got a call to action. And even I know you need a call to action for these things. So I'm going to use the right click again. I'm going to fade out. I'm actually going to fade out to white because I know I've got this PNG, which sits here. Okay, so what are we looking at? Running from start to finish. It's got a call to action. It's got a dissolves out to white. Perfect. So where do I want to put this? Well, we've already seen I could send it straight through to Facebook. Not really interested in that. We've already shown you that. Let's push it straight back to Mark over at Object Matrix. So I'll be on the lookout for that one, Mark. That will be coming through now. And just while we're compressing that, to answer the person who asked the question earlier, and actually just to reiterate, EDL is going back to Edge, running in Mark's instance. It is rendering out from that EDL a file with the source qualities, which will manifest itself in Mark's system. And Mark will give us a shout when that one pops up. I can see at my end it's compressing nicely. Before Mark though gets it all prepped up in Object Matrix, let's just have a look at some of the other stuff you can do with Blackbird, because already I think we've shown you capabilities above and beyond what you usually expect, but there's more buried away inside this system. Actually, it speaks to one of the questions we've asked about changing orientation and effects. So underneath Blackbird, the right click opens up a lot more features than you ever thought would possibly exist. So interesting. Let's say that we didn't want this bar here. We wanted the bar at the top. A right click on the top of the track is going to reveal multiple different controls. The middle control is the ability to transform. At this point, having opened up transform, I can simply start picking these things up and moving them around. If I wanted to be really flash, I could make them move from left to right. I'm not going to do that for this because it might get just a little bit messy even for me. But every single video track you see, and I'll remind you, you have access to 12 or 32, every single video track you see can be amended in this way. So now I can pick up that text and move it to the top. So why not? Why not? Let's try and do something a little bit flash with that text. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock one end of the text from the other end of the text, and then I'm going to pick that text up and I'm going to make it so that it pans across the screen. And I can, even though I can't hear any of you saying anything, I can hear all the professional editors wince at what this is going to look like. So please divorce yourselves from what it will look like and understand that if you were doing it, it would be much better and wouldn't look like that. The point is you can do it. And that, I think, that answers the question regarding, whether or not we can adjust graphics. Of course, look, if you're wanting to get into some of the slightly more granular stuff like the roll on, the roll off, that takes some coordination with your graphics engine. But, again, those files, if they're sat in Object Matrix, can be pushed, will retain the image and animation with the alpha and take things forward from there. So, Mark, how's that file looking? With you yet, or still processing at your end?
No, it's been here for a little while, actually. It arrived 2 minutes ago.
Well, then again, I'm gonna gently break my own rule and answer one of the questions. Yes, there is an export status. I just didn't happen to have it on the screen. It's there. And that actually, in the duration of the time it was going to Mark, was amber, marking it was rendering, and then it went green. I'm gonna draw the curtain back a little bit and say that I actually have one of the tabs open in the other window. So when I asked Mark, is it back with you yet? I did actually know it was. So please do rest assured that we have plenty of status indicators and we're not guessing. Shall I hand back to you, Mark, so you can have a look at what that file looks like where it's in Blackbird?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it is quite easy to see that the vision interface, which we can see from anywhere, we'll just have it in our publish folder. And there is your Catch the Hockey on CBS One. Playable and noisy in my ears. And yeah, your little cut is working nicely. I could choose to see that extra metadata, the time I can see it came in within a couple of minutes, and extra data. And of course, I can now tag it up and say, is this the one I want? Well, yeah, probably is. Let's add a tag to it and say publish. Simple stuff to allow me to get back to it as well afterwards.
Superb. Yes, and I think it's fair to say, Mark, we don't want to put anyone on the spot. I think we as the integration grows, we're probably looking at other ways we can tap metadata into you and pass it back and forth, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. Always the more metadata, the better for us. So yeah, we will be.
So we have a couple of options open for that, which is either the XML sidecar that drops in, but we have an API that can call, and the Mark and I will be geeking out over that in the background for the next few months, as that is very much the phase 2 thing here. Now, I feel that we've potentially sort of shown the basics and also some of the more in-depth bits of the editors. So I'm tempted to move things over to question and answer, just to make sure we've got plenty of time, and also make sure that plenty of time, Adrian has plenty of time to do his survey, unless we think anything has been missed. What I might do is I might pop my screen back up and just prop the editor open, just in case I do need to demonstrate anything. Just to answer the questions, let me answer the Blackbird ones, Mark, and then we'll see what we've got for Object Matrix. So, can you support dual screens for more screen real estate that all editors need? So, what we can support is as big as you want to possibly make this tab. What we don't let things do is run two tabs in the same way. So I have two tabs open now, and those two tabs could be spread very effectively over two screens. And there's various different ways in which those two things can interact, whether that be viewing the status or whether that be viewing the nature of files coming in, other organizations, or people putting notes and messages for me on my timeline. Where it gets a little bit more, what's the right word? A little bit different from what you might be expecting, anonymous attendee, is the manner in which one screen relates with the other screen. So the slightly more traditional, I put playback in one and I put something in the other. That's not quite how it works. It's more of a status indicator on one side and across here. It's also worth remembering that as much as we can make this really big, this is still a proxy edit. You know, so I don't think I'm ruining any trade secrets if I say, if you're going to edit The Lord of the Rings, and you want ultra high definition 4K on presentation on a TV behind your desk, I suspect you might be using something other than Blackbird for that. What we're really targeting here is the fast turnaround highlights, the fast turnaround content, the stuff that you definitely don't want to be bringing into a whole Avid Bay just to deliver a clip that's a minute, 2 minutes, or something along those lines. Thank you very much, Derek, for the compliment. That's very kind. Live streaming options are, you can take an SDI in, you can take an RTMP push, you can take a Zixi pull, an HLS pull, and SRT is being screamed at us to add, and that's very much on the roadmap, but coming very soon. And I think the next question is for you, Mark, on Object Matrix.
I mean, yeah, of course, it's always mandatory to have an object matrix. Everybody should have one, and in my opinion. But for pulling media from EVS MAD to Blackbird, not necessarily. It could be used in other storages, and I understand there are other storages out there in the world.
Mark, I wanted to put that to you first because obviously I didn't want to go too far on the wrong path. Candidly, anything you can mount via any NAS you can mount to the edge, we can read from. Doesn't matter if it's an ISIS, doesn't matter if it's an Nexus, doesn't matter if it's a Synology thing that you bought for 300 quid. The edge will look at it. You can use your S3, you can use your AWS, you can use whatever else. However, what you won't be getting if you don't use something clever like Object Matrix, you know, is that lovely thing that Mark showed you with that smooth back and forth and that management layer. However, if you are running an EVS system and have, let's say, growing files picking up on that for your live application, don't hesitate to get in touch because obviously we can deal with that. And as we discussed earlier in the presentation there, we're dealing with that for the euphemistic major sporting event that's coming up in the summer. Can the render engine upres material if required? We won't stop you doing whatever you want to do to your material, Jerry. But we'd probably, and that would fall very much in my department's prerogative, just double check the result. Forgive me. We'd want to double check the result and make sure that what you were doing was sane and sensible. I'm sure it is. In that case, we'd sign it off, get you your installation, and away we'd go. Right, anonymous attendee. So media is exchanged as IM export between the systems, BB.
Import or exported between the systems. I'd probably say it's more that it reads the MatrixStore and then converts it into the Blackbird codec so that it can be used within the cloud. And then the render at the end actually uses the original asset back on the edge server. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's a fair summary. Yeah, absolutely. But if you want a bit more detail on how it all pops together, anonymous attendee, there's an email at the end. Both myself and Mark will be happy to jump on a call and run you through the nuts and the bolts. Mark Clouet, possible to record voiceover with Blackbird? Absolutely, Mark. and arguably I should have shown you how to do it already. so apologies if I've dropped the ball there. I must confess, not part of my regular demo, and I'm not quite sure how my audio is routed on this application. So we're going to roll the dice here. So this button here is the Blackbird button for recording voiceover. And what that recording voiceover is going to look at is whatever I have assigned as my microphone into my PC. Now, at the moment, that's configured for Zoom. And it's either going to come in via some headphone. I must confess, I'm not a PC guy. Tell you what, let's see what happens when I click it. It wants to use my microphone. And it's playing at the same time. I could probably mute that out. And now I'm recording. You can see I'm recording. Hit stop. Okay. So unfortunately, it has recorded some audio, Mark. But because I haven't routed the audio from this microphone up here, you won't be able to hear it. But that is what happens as you record voiceover. You will record from whatever your active microphone is, and that will go into your audio track there. And once that's in there, you can't see any audio in there because there is no audio in there, but you have this level of control, the ability to add keyframes, the ability to bring up the volume, bring down the volume, and adjust it as such. Hope that answers that one. It's a very powerful use of Blackbird to add voiceovers and things like that, again, without having to go right the way back to a sort of post-house facility or a dubbing or an overdubbing facility or anything like that, just to be able to do it right then and there in your browser. And that can be pushed out as WAV or whatever you want as a sidecar file. And again, that could be pushed straight back to Object Matrix, assigned to the asset where it would presumably sync up because it's exactly frame based on it. Rodrigo, do we integrate with Simply Live? Glad you like that one, Mark. Thank you. Do we integrate with Simply Live? So we have talked to Simply Live. We absolutely have. And I think we've looked at various different ways of getting media in. And from our end, it would be getting media in because we'll always return a flat file. Have you had any dealings with Simply Live, Mark?
I was just looking. I don't think we have actually, now you come to mention it, but we're always happy to speak with anybody when it comes to third-party integrations. And of course, those file systems and our S3 interface often give us integration into a lot of systems out of the box. So I'd be happy to have that conversation.
Yes, and I think I must confess, I think I should pick that conversation up, Mark. I feel like it might have landed on my desk a while back and actually gone really quite well, but beyond quite a long list of things to integrate. So Rodrigo, we will look into that. We'll let you know because I think our North American sales rep has made some good headway on that. Daniel Webster. Brilliant. So please don't forget to answer out the poll that Adrian has put up on the screen. Unless there are any more questions, and I think we've covered all the questions. I'm sorry if we missed one, but I think we have covered the lot. I think that's probably it, Mark, unless there's anything else you want to...
No, I think we've covered a lot. It's been a good webinar, good working with you as well, George, obviously. Thank you very much for having us along today.
Brilliant. Well, listen, thank you, Mark, very much indeed. And more than anything for being a fantastic partner. You know, we really, I forget who put us in touch. I think it was David Mortlock, our sales rep. But from the get-go, you made everything very easy indeed, which is what we like. And the result, however, is really powerful, really useful, and it just means that we've got a really good, solid go-to partner when people say, "I've got tons and tons and tons of equipment, and I want to pick things up from there." Okay, absolutely brilliant. Well, listen, thank you very much, everyone, indeed. It's been a real pleasure. And I'll speak to you soon, Mark, and hopefully we'll be speaking to all the people who've asked questions very soon about how they can pick up Blackbird and Object Matrix.
Perfect. Thanks very much again, George. Cheers.
Take care, guys.